What happens when an honest woodcutter loses everything in a magical river? Stay till the end to find out the secret that changed his life forever.
Deep in the heart of the jungle, where the trees grew tall and the river ran clear, there lived a young woodcutter named Kofi. His home was small and simple, but Kofi kept it with great care and an honest heart.
Every morning, Kofi rose with the sun, ready to work hard for everything he needed. He had little, but he was grateful for every single thing he had.
Each day he worked not for riches, but for the ones he loved.
Every swing of his axe was for them paying. Every log split was an act of love.
His axe was old and worn, but it was his most precious tool, the one that put food on his table.
The handle was wearing thin, but Kofi wrapped it tight and trusted it would hold. With his axe over his shoulder and a song in his heart, Kofi set off into the jungle to work. The jungle was alive all around him, and Kofi walked its paths with a grateful and honest heart.
Every day, Kofi walked to the same river, where the tall trees gave shade, and he chose the largest log, rolled up his sleeves, and set to work without complaint.
His axe rang through the jungle with each honest swing, and the birds above learned the rhythm of his work. Each strike was true and strong, the honest work of a man who never cut corners.
Log by log, the pile grew tall, and Kofi's heart grew warmer with each one.
The river was always there beside him, calm and beautiful, and Kofi was always grateful for its company.
When the afternoon grew heavy, Kofi paused to rest, a man who worked hard and rested honestly.
He drank from the river as he always did, thankful for every gift the jungle gave him freely.
But then, something was wrong. The axe head wobbled loose on its worn handle, and Kofi's heart skipped.
He wrapped the cord as tight as he could and told himself it would hold for one more day. He steadied himself, took one deep breath, and brought the axe down with everything he had bare. And that is when it happened. And then, in one terrible moment, the axe head tore free from the handle. Kofi watched in horror as his most precious tool flew from his grip. The axe turned slowly through the air and tabring and fell toward the deep river below. It hit the water with a terrible splash and was gone. The ripples spread wide and slow, and then the river was still again, as if nothing had changed at all. Kofi ran to the water's edge and searched the deep, dark river with desperate eyes. Deep below the surface, his precious axe sank slowly, down, down, into the dark and silent depths.
It came to rest on the riverbed, silent, still, and very far away.
Kofi sat at the water's edge, staring at nothing, the empty handle still in his hand.
Without his axe, he could not work. Without work, he could not feed his family. The weight of it pressed down on him like a stone.
And so Kofi did what any honest man would do. He sat beside the river, and he wept. Kofi sat alone beside the river for a long time, the jungle quiet around him, his heart heavy with worry. Then, very quietly, something strange happened. A single ripple crossed the still water. But there was no wind. Kofi slowly lifted his head. Through his tears, he saw the ripple, and something in him went very still. Deep beneath the water, something was waking. A light, faint and golden, was rising from the riverbed. Tiny golden bubbles rose from the deep, opaque, one by one, each one glowing. The golden light grew stronger, pulsing, breathing, filling the dark water with warmth.
Kofi leaned forward, unable to look away. Flee. The golden light was growing, and his heart was pounding.
The river's surface began to rise, pushed upward by something magnificent coming from below.
And then, with a burst of golden light that scattered the river into 1,000 drops.
First came a crown of flowers, white and gold, glowing as though the sun itself lived inside each petal. Then a face. The most beautiful and gentle face Kofi had seen. She rose from the river in all her glory. A fairy of light and water kite. She hovered above the water, her wings catching the light of the afternoon sun, her golden glow filling the jungle with warmth. Her light touched everything. The water, the trees, the flowers.
And Kofi Hun, poor honest Kofi, could not move, could not speak, could only stare.
His eyes were wide as the river. His heart had stopped and started again. He had never seen anything like her in all his life.
There they were, the great radiant fairy of the river, and one small, honest woodcutter. The fairy looked down at the weeping woodcutter, and she smiled the kindest smile he had ever seen.
The fairy raised one elegant hand toward the deep river owned, and the water below her began to glow.
From the very deepest part of the river, a new golden light began to rise, bright and purposeful. And up from the deep water rose the most magnificent axe Kofi had ever seen, made entirely of solid, gleaming gold. It hovered in the air between them, gleaming, golden, extraordinary, the most valuable thing Kofi had ever laid eyes upon. The fairy looked at Kofi with the gentlest curiosity and asked without a single word, "Is this golden axe yours?" Kofi stared at the golden axe. It was more beautiful than anything he had ever seen in his whole life.
He looked down at his own hands, the honest working hands that knew only his old iron axe, and he knew the truth.
No, that is not my axe. My axe was old and plain teed, but it was mine, and I would never claim what does not belong to me. My axe, my real axe, is down there, in the deep water.
The fairy said nothing. She simply watched him bend, and in her ancient golden eyes, something wonderful was growing. With one graceful gesture, the fairy sent the golden axe back down into the deep water ode. But the river was not finished. A new light was already rising, cooler and silvery. Up from the deep came a second axe, this one polished bright silver, elegant and cool, shimmering like moonlight on still water. It hovered there between them, polished, perfect, beautiful, a thing of cool silver elegance. Once again, the fairy looked at Kofi with gentle, curious eyes and asked the same silent question.
I have looked at it carefully no-eyed, and no, that is not mine either.
I only want what is mine, nothing more. Even if my own axe is gone forever meeting, I will not take something that belongs to another.
An honest heart is the only thing I carry that I would never trade. Not for silver, not for...
The fairy's golden eyes blazed with delight. She had asked the river to find her the most honest heart in the jungle held its breath. The river glowed between them. And then Roy, the fairy made up her mind. Suddenly the fairy laughed, a sound like sunlight on water hayed, and her whole being blazed with joy. She clapped her hands together once and Nevi, and the whole river answered her call. The river lit up like molten gold, glowing from its deepest depths as the fairy reached down toward the water. Her hand disappeared beneath the glowing surface, reaching all the way down to the dark riverbed far below. And when her hand rose from the water, she held not gold, not silver quite, but an old...
Kofi's eyes went wide. That notch in the blade, that fraying cord, he knew it at once. That was his axe. Pure joy flooded through him. Relief so deep it brought happy tears to his honest eyes.
Yes, that is my axe. That old plain one. Thank you. Thank you with all my heart.
He reached out and took his old iron axe, holding it close to his heart. To him it was worth more than all the gold in the world.
Kofi bowed low and deep before the fairy, his gratitude pouring out with every breath. Then the fairy raised her arms high, and golden light burst across the whole jungle like a second sunrise. And there they floated, gold, iron, and silver, side by side, all three now Kofis.
Kofi walked home happier than he had ever been, his 3 axes tucked safely under his arm.
Even the jungle birds seemed to celebrate with him, fluttering around his shoulders as he walked. His little cottage came into view through the trees, and his heart filled with warmth. Home at last. But near the path lived Gruff, a greedy neighbor, and when he saw Kofi coming, his small eyes narrowed with sudden interest.
Then Gruff saw the gleaming golden axe Khan, and his eyes filled with hungry greed.
You will not believe it, Gruff. A fairy rose from the river. She gave me gold and silver hain, all because I told her the truth.
Gruff leaned in close, drinking up every word, his greedy mind already turning and turning.
And then a sly grin spread across his face. Gruff had a plan, a greedy, clever plan.
Without a word of thanks, Gruff snatched up his own axe and rushed off toward the river. Kofi watched him go with a worried heart, for he knew that greed never leads anywhere good.
Gruff hurried through the jungle as fast as his legs could carry him, his greedy heart pounding with excitement. At last, he reached the very same river, panting and sweating, his greedy eyes searching the water. He looked around to make sure no one could see, for what he was about to do was very foolish indeed.
Gruff threw his own axe into the deep water on purpose, putting, splash stand, and then he sat down to wait.
Then he began to cry, the loudest, fakest tears you ever heard. Oh, my axe! Oh, my... He peeked through his fingers to see if it was working down, then wailed even louder, the sly old trickster.
Oh, my precious axe is lost in the river.
Whatever shall I do? I do hope a kind fairy might bring me a golden one.
And then, the water began to glow. The fairy was coming. Gruff's fake tears stopped at once.
The fairy rose from the water just as before, but her eyes were watchful now, for she saw straight into Gruff's greedy heart. Still, she lifted the golden axe from the water and offered it gently, and asked if it was his.
Yes, that one is mine, the big golden one, Gruff cried, lunging forward with both greedy hands.
But the fairy's smile faded. She had seen 1,000 greedy hearts before made, and she knew at once that Gruff was lying.
The fairy looked at Gruff with quiet sadness, for greed had blinded him to the truth.
That golden axe is not yours. You threw your own away to trick me. A dishonest heart earns no reward, no reward. With a gentle wave of her hand, the golden and silver axes sank back into the water, and even his own old axe was...
Gruff stared at his empty hands. His greed had cost him everything. Even the axe he started with was now lost.
And so Gruff walked home with empty hands and a heavy heart, having learned a hard and lonely lesson.
But perhaps, just perhaps, somewhere deep down, Gruff finally understood what he had done wrong.
Meanwhile, far across the jungle, the The afternoon sun shone warm and golden over a very different home.
Kofi was home, splitting firewood with his own dear iron axe, whistling as happily as a man could be.
On his wall hung the gold and silver axes the fairy had given him, gifts earned by his honest heart.
And every evening he shared a warm meal with the family he loved, Kuris, richer in happiness than any king.
And so the jungle settled into a peaceful golden evening, with one more lesson woven into its ancient story. Honesty is always the best policy, little ones. When we are true in our hearts, the world gives back more than we could ever imagine. Sleep well, little ones, and always remember, an honest heart is the greatest treasure of all. If you loved this story, tap the like button and subscribe for a new moral story every week. Good night, little ones!